In the high, mist-shrouded peaks of the eastern provinces, where the air is so thin it tastes of silver, there lived a weaver named Elara. She was not a weaver of common wool or coarse linen, she was the sole mistress of Aurelian Silk, a fabric so ethereal it was rumored to be spun from captured moonlight and the dreams of sleeping mountains. A single hand width of Elara's silk could buy a merchant's fleet, yet Elara lived in a dwelling of extreme simplicity. A stone hut with a single circular window, a loom carved from ancient cedar, and a heavy iron bolt on her door. The emperor had commissioned Elara for the task of a lifetime, the Shroud of Unity. This was to be a tapestry 50 feet long, weaving together the history, the mythology, and the future of a 1,000-year dynasty. It was the most complex geometric and narrative pattern ever attempted by human hands. The golden threads were thinner than a human hair. One misplaced movement, one microscopic tremor of the finger, or one momentary lapse in concentration would cause the tension of the loom to snap, unraveling weeks of divine labor in a single, agonizing second. But Elara had a problem that was not born of stone or silk. She was under siege by the whispering birds, the fragmentation of the soul. In the valley below, the world was accelerating. The village had become a hive of modern urgency. Every morning, colorful mechanical birds, clockwork marvels sent by ambitious merchants, anxious gossips, and mid-level officials, would fly up the mountain and perch on Elara's windowsill. They didn't sing, they possessed a far more dangerous gift. They whispered, "Elara, the silk markets in the south are favoring crimson this year. Should you abandon the gold? Elara, the emperor's third advisor is worried about the pace. Have you a progress report? Elara, did you hear the scandalous rumor about the master weaver in the neighboring province? Elara, just a quick moment, a tiny question regarding the border filigree." At first, Elara tried to be efficient. She would keep one hand on the shuttle while nodding to a bird. She would pause for just a second to shoo another away, only to find herself standing at the window for 10 minutes, watching the bird fly back to the valley. But each whisper was a tiny, invisible hook in her mind. She would find herself mid-stitch, wondering if the emperor truly was impatient. She would lose the rhythm of the loom because her inner ear was listening for the next mechanical click of a bird's wings. Her mind, once a mirror still lake reflecting the patterns of the shroud, became a choppy, gray sea of what-ifs and just-in-cases. She was suffering from cognitive fragmentation. She was busy, from sunrise to sunset, her heart racing and her hands moving, yet the shroud remained stagnant. The gold thread began to look dull, stripped of the life that only absolute focus can provide. The breaking point in the blackout. One Tuesday, a bird with feathers of bright, distracting emerald perched on her sill. Its whisper was sharp, like a needle. "The emperor is considering a younger weaver. They say you've lost your touch." Elara's heart lunged in her chest. Her fingers, usually as steady as the mountain itself, gave a violent spasmodic jerk. Snap! The golden thread, the central vein of the shroud's current history, parted. The tension of the loom groaned. Elara stared at the broken strand, the first failure in 25 years of mastery. In the heavy silence that followed, she realized a terrifying truth. The birds weren't there to inform her, they were there to consume her. They lived on the nectar of her attention, and she was starving her life's work to feed their trivial hunger. Elara stood up. She didn't try to argue with the bird. She didn't send a message back. She moved with a sudden, violent clarity. First, she took a heavy, double-layered cloth of black velvet and draped it over her only window, plunging the room into absolute darkness, save for the singular, steady glow of a small oil lamp suspended directly over the loom. Next, she took 2 spheres of soft, warm beeswax and pressed them firmly into her ears. The world died. The whispers became a dull, meaningless hum, no more significant than the wind against the stone. The political shifts of the South, the anxieties of the advisors, and the quick questions of the curious were physically barred from her sanctum. She sat back at the cedar loom. Without the visual noise of the valley or the auditory static of the birds, she could finally feel the vibration of the silk itself. She could hear the rhythmic thrum of her own blood. She wasn't just weaving a pattern anymore, she was the pattern. By removing the distractions, she didn't just work faster, she accessed a layer of her soul that had been buried under the noise. The silk began to glow with a light that seemed to come from within the fibers themselves. The revelation of silence. A year passed. The villagers believed Elara had died or fled. The mechanical birds had long since stopped flying to her hut. There was no return on investment in whispering to a stone wall. When the emperor finally ascended the mountain to claim his shroud, he expected to find a ruin. Instead, Elara opened the door. She looked younger, her eyes clear and deep. She unfurled the Shroud of Unity in the morning sun. The valley fell into a silence so profound it felt like a prayer. The tapestry didn't just show history, it felt as though the very essence of time had been captured in the weave. The gold was so vibrant it made the sun look pale. Every face in the weave held a soul. Every mountain in the silk held a secret. The emperor whispered, "How did you find the genius to weave such a thing? The world has never been louder or more chaotic." Elara looked at the two small balls of beeswax sitting on her table. "The genius was always in the thread," she said. "I just had to stop listening to the birds." The anatomy of the distraction. We live in a kingdom of mechanical birds. Every like, every breaking news banner, every Slack notification, and every "Do you have a sec?" is a bird perching on the windowsill of your mind. When your mind is cluttered, you are not a creator, you are a filter. You are spending 90% of your energy simply trying to ignore the noise, leaving only 10% for the Aurelian Silk of your life. To produce work that matters, work that breathes, you must protect your internal silence with the ferocity of a gatekeeper. To master your mind, you must apply the architecture of focus. 1. Sensory deprivation. Your brain is hardwired to respond to movement and sound. If your phone is in your field of vision, you are losing focus units even if you don't touch it. Cover the window. 2. The high switching cost. Every time you just check an email, it takes your brain nearly 25 minutes to return to the original state of deep flow. If you check every 20 minutes, you are effectively living your entire life in a state of cognitive impairment. 3. The sanctum ritual. You must have a physical or digital earplug. A time of day where you are unreachable, unpingable, and entirely offline to everyone but your masterpiece. Your call to action. Right now, there are a dozen mechanical birds whispering in your ear. They are telling you that you need to know the news, check the thread, or answer the text. They are lying. Your challenge. Today, I want you to perform a blackout deep work session for exactly 2 hours. The velvet. Close every tab on your computer except the one required for your shroud. The wax. Put on noise-canceling headphones or earplugs. The iron bolt. Put your phone in a drawer in a different room. Notice the withdrawal. For the first 20 minutes, your brain will itch. You will feel a frantic urge to check something. That is the addiction to the noise. Push through. On the other side of that itch is the Aurelian Silk. What is the one project you've been shuffling, but never truly weaving? Would you like me to help you design a focus fortress schedule to protect your genius from the birds?